Oh, the weasel, my friend, you sneaky dog. And I'm talking about uh, fellow brother over there, the crazy Scotsman, also the known here as the weasel. Sent me a gift. You sneaky guy. I got some SD cards for the camera. Oh man, you guys are too much. I do appreciate that. If that doesn't heat you up and cool you down at the same time. Of course, obviously, Mr. Holster would have had some sort of rye or something. Um, but anyhow, we're going to get through it. It is Saturday morning once again, and I greatly, man, I tell you, I can't express just how much the appreciation is for all the kind comments, the years of support, and I tell you, the donations and the gifts that you guys have been giving over, giving your hard-earned money to the channel, to me, and all that. Man, that is so cool. I can't. I don't know. I just. I thank you, and again, it's not necessary. I definitely am not trying to say, hey, everybody, send me stuff or send me money. I've never been like that. So I really appreciate that. Lee Kishbaum, giving money over and tips, donations, whatever. I even feel like I'm comfortable saying it because I'm like, oh man, I feel. But I do. I greatly appreciate it, and Slim Fire as well. This time around, we had two major tips over there from the last week's show. So that is so cool and greatly appreciated. It does help out a lot, probably more than in the cause here and what we do. So anyhow. Thank you, Lee Kishbaum and Slim Fire. Special thanks for you guys starting off because you guys, that's super cool. All right, this one here, we got one from Squib Lift. Listen to on the treadmill at the gym this morning. Thanks. Well, no, thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. That's so cool because I always thought about that. I'm like, that'd be neat if somebody was like tuned in, like on a road trip or on a long drive, sitting on an airplane, during a layover, maybe in a flight or something like that. We're on the treadmill doing something that I should be doing right now. And so, yeah, I always thought that was cool, this kind of format of a program that somebody could just listen in, not necessarily have to actually visually watch, although that's, part of the coolness of doing this. And we get to show you some really cool stuff. Like we got something out here to show you and everything this time around. So that's so cool. All right, and then this one here is from Leakish Bao. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. I get if I'm getting where you're coming from, I don't know. I apologize if that was never the intention. Love the show. Please keep it going. We definitely intend to. I appreciate that. We may be doing some different topics and different subjects from time to time, but we definitely, keep the show rolling as certain things, maybe interest or whatever, go a different direction. This one here is from Sean Lee. Morning, y'all. Gotta say, Phantasm is one of my favorite. Is one of my all-time favorites as well. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched Army of Darkness. Oh, there we go. I'll try to make this bigger so I can read it. Cheesy one-liners, definitely a cult classic. Yes, Army of Darkness. I recall seeing that. We rented that on videotape. Really cool. And I tell you, both those people, like the director, like we spoke about, Don Coscarelli, the director of Phantasm, all 4 films. He did not direct the final one, but he did direct. My main ones were the first 3. That's the ones that I grew up with on videotape and watching those all the time. But Don Coscarelli couldn't have been a cooler dude to meet. Really down to earth. Really was happy that fans were there to actually see him and talk to him. So, and same with Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell seemed like a really cool guy. All right, Jeffrey Richardson says good morning, and good morning to you, sir. I appreciate your coming back around and always being here. Same with, we got Bohemian Hunting Club. The PM option would be nice to still have. Yes, absolutely. Would love to be able to still do the private messaging thing that we used to be able to do here, especially when you want to exchange certain things. It was easier to do giveaways then, to do it that way. It really was. I really wish I had more capability to do it or time to be able to do stuff like that. Would love. I'm still in my mind. I'm working on something like like how can we do something here. To get something from the show right here. I don't know. Trust me. I'm working on it. I'm thinking there's stuff that's rattling around and that empty coconut up here. All right, this one here is from Led 8541, my buddy Led over there. Great channel, by the way, everybody. You want to see some barbecuing? You check out Led's channel. I love watching candy be made. Also, oh yeah, then you're gonna like Hercules candy if you have not seen them already. This one here is from Squib 1911. He's got coffee in hand, assuming. Although I don't have coffee this morning, or not this morning. I guess they're this week's episode and show. Led says also that is a great shirt, and he likes my zombie rodeo shirt. That is actually from a video game called Plants vs. Zombies. I'm not much of a video gamer. My friend, she used to play that game constantly. She discovered it on her laptop or something one time, and she just wouldn't stop playing it. I remember looking over and watching it, and then she got me kind of hooked on pressing buttons on there and checking it out. So it was kind of a joke, later on because we kind of, it was a kind of an addicting game to even watch or play it. And then she ended up getting me that shirt. All right, this one here is from DB. Top of the morning, and top of the morning to you. Mickey Mantle, this is awesome. Good morning, friends and brothers. Recently, our mutual friend of the channel said CATBOX for your reading. Thank you. Appreciate that. I need glasses, but I have not gone to get glasses because insurance sucks and it's expensive, and I can get by without them for now. Although sometimes reading things gets a little tough for me. The one thing I like about you is the fact that you never act like you know it all. I know nothing, as Sergeant Souls would say. Like some of my friends, LOL, blessings, friends. I totally get where you're coming from on that. I've been in, and it's not just even in the firearms deal. You just meet so many people that are just like, I don't know, they're so full of themselves or something like that. I just, over the time of doing this, I picked up on some things, read about some things, and learned about it in a sense not to become a haha, I know this type of, or like store it up there in this like, lexical of stuff. It was just more or less just to not get ripped off, honestly, for myself. And then I decided well, why don't I start making videos on it and showing people or telling people so they don't get ripped off. That's been my main thing. But yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know everything, and don't ever pretend to know everything. Those people are just, I think they're taking things in life too seriously. You gotta laugh, man. Heck, I don't know. I just like, to me, I was like, why did I want that? I don't know. It's cool. It's old, and I've seen it in the movie. All right, Crazy Scotsman, never been a horror guy. What? Come on, man. You got to watch some of the horror. No. All right. No, not everybody's into it. I get it. I got a friend of mine, Silva, and I always drag him to go see all these horror flicks. I know he probably doesn't enjoy it all that much, but I know he goes majority because I'm dragging him to it because nobody else would go. But I have seen, I tell you, when I don't know how many of you recall this. To me, they're not that old. Like a 1970s movie I got here to talk about. But when the Paranormal Activity movies are coming out, I was like a junkie for those. And I remember when Part 2 came out, I saw it. I said, oh, I got to go see this. So I was with a buddy of mine, and I said, hey, let's go see this. I stood in line to get my ticket. He goes, and he bailed out. He was like, I'm going to go home or something. And I said, the hell with it. I'm going. So I bought my ticket and went in there, and I'm sitting at the very top where I always like to sit right in the middle so I get full-blown view of the screen. Guess what? I was the only one in there watching this. I kid you not. I was the only one watching this movie by myself in the theater watching Paranormal Activity 2. That was good times. All right. I do think the old school graphics are awesome. Yes, they are, especially a lot of the cover art of the VHS tapes. That's another reason what drew me to the horror in the first place, because I remember all those covers, the VHS covers. I remember seeing all those in the videotape stores during the late 80s and stuff, and seeing that. And I was like, God, this is so cool. It was so intriguing. My young brain was just like, oh my gosh, I got to see this. What is this? So that's you know what, and it did its job. Hopefully, it's just a card issue and not the camera. If it ends up being the camera, let me know. I'll get you taken care of. Oh man, you are too much, my friend. No, the card seems to be doing good. So again, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I really do. I can't. I think I have the best subscribers ever, and people. Again, you guys are just phenomenal, all of you. I really appreciate your comments and everything you guys do, and the support to the channel and what we do here, the show and everything. Man, I can't. It's just it's so appreciated. Thank you so much. This one's from Judson McGraw. Hey, Batjack, still make any grips? Short answer, no. Sorry, I don't. Have a Browning high power. You're a lucky person if you got one. And a Pieta GW2. Not sure what a Pieta GW2 is. Great Western? I don't know. Assuming it's a single action or so. Looking for some stag or bone grips. If you're looking for legit stuff, like actual stag or actual like some kind of like, I've seen stuff like giraffe bone or bison bone or something like that. eBay, I've seen those floating around. They're very expensive. Not something that I was interested in because of the price and not to sound like a whatever. I just never really felt the need to like have the actual stuff. I mostly did everything synthetics. Whatever you want to call it, naga bone. But also, if you're interested more in this I guess they do add a bone additive like a powder or something in it to make it have the feel, and it does. Buffalo Brothers, I think they're called Buffalo Brothers grips or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what they are, Buffalo Brothers. They're out of Mesa, Arizona. The guy's super cool. I've talked to him many times on the phone. Makes really good stuff. Really all different designs, different shades. You can pick from his levels of antiquing. So that's really cool. And this one here is from Slim Fire. Again, thank you. You guys' donations from Slim Fire and Leakish Bow this time around. I appreciate that. And, your kind words and everything, it's always greatly appreciated. So, all right. So those are the comments, and we're going to go ahead and talk about some other stuff here. I got a really cool movie to share with you guys before we get into it too far here. I don't know how many people have ever seen this movie, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to talk about this movie because many people, I don't know how many people know or don't know, Taxi Driver is one of my favorite films of all time. Love the way it's written, love the way it's shot, filmed. It's really what made me love Scorsese's work. Although I think lately, Scorsese, I got to be honest, The Irishman or whatever, or I Heard You Paint Houses, I think it was the book. He made that into a film. It wasn't that good. I'm sorry. I tried to like it. I watched it. Like, I know I've watched it all the way through once. I tried to do it a second time. I don't know if I made it or not a second time. I certainly have not watched it a whole bunch more after that. I think that was just pushing it because of you're trying to, I think if it was done with different people, it probably would have been, but you could tell they just wanted to bring out the old trio or the usual guys, from the Goodfellas days and stuff like that, which is good movies. Casino, I think, is one of my favorite mobster movies that he did, if you want to call it that. I'm not the biggest fan of Goodfellas. I think maybe it's because I maybe watched it too many times when I first, discovered it, and probably wore that VHS tape out way too much. So, but anyhow, Scorsese's film Taxi Driver is definitely, I think, his best work. All right. So this one here is written by Paul Schrader, which wrote Taxi Driver. This one's called Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder stars William Devane, or Devine, whatever, however you want to pronounce his name, and Tommy Lee Jones, which is odd because he only has like two kind of major scenes in it. But as he later became more popular or whatever, make sure his name's on there. But William Devane is the main guy in it. Rolling Thunder, also known as the movie that he gets his hand cut off, or more graphically to say, ground off. I did hear it was actually a lot more graphic than what they showed in it, which they didn't really show. I think they cut it out because I think the original test audience with it, people ended up like completely losing it. Got to remember, 1977, obviously before my time, but I always love these movies, especially like that Taxi Driver era, 70s era, because I always, when I watch it, my mind goes right to that time frame. And I always think, because I mean, even though I wasn't alive during there, but I always imagine what it was like to be in that theater during that time and seeing this stuff, and thinking during that time, what all did people see? The most crazy stuff. Again, going back to film, I think 1969 Sam Peckinpah, The Wild Bunch, changed a lot of things as far as the action and showing more bloodletting and stuff in films. You could even go back further into I think it was like the mid 60s when Herschel Gordon Lewis was directing movies, making these horrendous horror flicks, Blood Feast and Color Me Blood Red or whatever, Gruesome Twosome, and all those type of movies that are totally cheesy as hell these days, but it probably looks like more like they took, like he was just raided his daughter's paint set and smeared it all over. But this movie is crazy. Don't really want to spoil it for you in case you haven't seen it. War veteran, I believe it was POW, comes back home, and life really isn't what it could have been or should have been, and in the end has to seek revenge, and definitely pulls no punches. The ending is definitely takes right after it writes itself right like Taxi Driver, going right into the in a sense creating an abattoir, or whatever, like a slaughterhouse type deal. All right, before I get out of here, the reason I brought out the old the Colt 1911, this particular one, Mark IV Series 70. I wanted to talk about, in a sense, collecting older Colts. I'm not an authority on it. Certainly don't know everything. Certainly know hardly anything, really. These here, some things to, I'll give you a rundown quickly on this one. For starters, grips is everything. Grips could mean a lot on these, especially these older Colts. This kind of can carry on to some of the old Smiths and stuff if you're looking at revolvers. But the grips, these Colt grips with the gold medallion, they're fully checkered. Even this one here is, I think this is somewhere along the earlier 70s, this one here. If you go back further to 1970-ish, I guess you could say, the grips were somewhat like this. They were known as kind of the collectors call them barn siding grips, because they really do. They look like somebody tore down an old barn and just made grips out of them. There's no checkering. It's just like this bark-looking checkering or texture on it. These ones here are done probably on more like a walnut. Who knows, but it does have the full checkering on it. That's a big starter for, say, this Mark IV Series 70. The other one here, because it's a true Series 70 from the 70s, it does have its collet barrel bushing, which is what made these guns known as the Series 70. even though a lot of people like to say it's the firing pin block, and yes and no, because yes, the Series 80 did introduce the firing pin block, but remember when this was being made, that didn't exist. What made it the Series 70 is this collet barrel bushing. This gun is rather worn. You can see on the muzzle there on the barrel, you can see these really distinctive scrapes removing the bluing, and that is from the fingers of that barrel bushing going back and forth. And you can actually feel it like lock up at the end there. That's kind of another way you can tell if the person that you're buying this from, or in the shop, doesn't want you to take it apart or anything like that, and to look and see if it's got its original barrel bushing. The other way to tell or date them is the large lettering on this side where it says Colt's government model. The large lettering does date it back to the earlier 70s. Now, I could be wrong on this, but it has been to my investigations, if you will. Colt serial number lookup is a great tool to use. It's free. Is if these prefix 70 in the serial number, you can guess that this gun is from 70 to 75. If it is a suffix 70, it is in the later part of 70s, 76 to 79, 80. I think by then they were starting to not, do them. So these are one of my favorites because it's kind of a World War II looking Colt. Got the arch mainspring housing, short trigger, horrible sights, spur hammer, but with more of the modern commercial polishing and stuff. The flats are beautifully polished. The rounded parts are bead blasted or matte finished, if you will. A lot of these, the lettering, the stamping, and I've got a video on this, the stamping can be washed out. So it's really hard to find some where the stampings were really good. That's what made me want this particular one. Was like I saw it, the stampings were excellent. The bluing was still there. It wasn't looked like it'd been beat up or trashed around too much. So picked it up. But with the grips and everything, like the old revolver grips and everything, I'm going to do a shameless plug here and say for your Python grips, especially with the new ones out now, and especially now with the as we talked about a couple shows ago, that they're doing the Python in blued with the 2.5, 3, 5, and 8-inch barrels. As the grips, replacing the grips, if you really like the old school look, deerhollowgrips.com. This guy Olaf is the guy when it comes to Python grips. These grips that he's making are far superior than any of the old ones, for sure. This is a set right here called these are kind of a unique wood that he had on there. I just had to have this set. Also, if you're like me and you have a lot of interest in that little snubby, the 2.5-inch snubby, how it's supposed to have those service panel grips on it. I have the 2.5 stainless one. The panel grips it comes with are the ones from Alt Mount, I believe. They're okay. I'm not going to trash them because, it's better than them doing something worse. It could be worse. Remember that. The grips could be a whole lot worse. They're not bad. They're just not the old originals. But if you like the old originals, definitely get the service grips from Deer. Excellent stuff. So anyway, just some small stuff to look at, when you're collecting stuff, revolvers especially. Grips I'm a really big one on grips. It's got to have its original grips. Because that can run you some pretty pricey dollars to replace them if you're wanting to replace them. So anyway, just some stuff like that on rundown. Always look if they're military guns. Look and see if they've been arsenally rebuilt and all that kind of stuff. If you're, of course, going to drop that kind of coin on them and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I had fun to show. Hopefully you did too. I do appreciate everybody always tuning in, always commenting and everything. So we'll see you next time on next week's show.